Joining us for a bit is Congressman Mike Johnson. Hey, Mr. Mike, welcome back to KEEL. How are you this morning?
Hey, Robert, doing well this morning.
Well, let's talk about SCOTUS nominee Bret Kavanaugh, the term I keep reading over and over again to my joy, and I'm being totally serious, you know me, is constitutional conservative, strict constructionist. What can you tell us about Kavanaugh?
He is all of that. You know, he was at the top of the short list that the president determined and that he wisely floated prior to the 2016 election. I think that gave a lot of conservatives in the country comfort and some sense of security that he would be faithful to that. I mean, look, this was not my favorite pick. Many people know that I've been out advocating for Judge Amy Coney Barrett, who's from Louisiana and has been a dear friend of mine since high school, who is also a strict constructionist conservative. But we'll take Judge Kavanaugh. Look, I'd say this is at least a double or triple, if not the home run. It's a safe pick for the president, but clearly I think conservatives can take a great degree of confidence and solace in this pick. I think he's going to be exceptional. Look, our system of government depends upon a Supreme Court that will faithfully uphold and apply the Constitution, and we're going to have that in Justice Kavanaugh. I mean, his record is extensive. It proves that he's committed to the principles of originalism and the separation of powers and an independent judiciary, and he's going to help restore fidelity to the rule of law, and we need that. We deserve it. He needs to be timely confirmed.
The opposition to Kavanaugh's nomination, to his appointment to the Supreme Court from the Democrat side, I saw the Shannon Bream, Fox reporter, story last night that she said, I'm afraid to go outside. There are so many people, and I feel there is violence in the air. Do you, being in Washington, do you sense that?
Yes, it is. Look, everything is hyperbolic right now. The political atmosphere is highly charged, and everybody recognizes that. And certainly it bleeds over into this as what's been rightfully referred to as the Super Bowl of politics. I mean, this is a nation-shaping moment. We're going to change the ideological shift of the court and move it right, probably for a generation, and that's been long overdue. But here's the interesting thing to point out, Robert, in all of this. I heard the left just absolutely apoplectic last night about this pick. What they're arguing is that in some stretch of the imagination, Judge Kavanaugh is some sort of extremist. I mean, they were using that word this morning on television. I was watching some of the coverage on MSNBC and CNN. To say that he's an extremist is patently absurd. This guy is a straight shooter. He interprets and applies the Constitution instead of inventing one, and that's what the left favors. They want activist judges. Judge Kavanaugh is not that. He's the opposite. He has over 300 written opinions, and everybody can comb through those. You'll see. This guy fairly and strictly applies the Constitution. That's what the founders anticipated. That's what our republic depends upon, and he is the furthest thing from an extremist.
Is there any concern? I would imagine this was something that was, no doubt this was taken into consideration by the Trump folks. Is there any concern about senators like Murkowski from, I think, Alaska and Collins from Maine, who have been, that they may say, oh, no, he's too extreme even for us? Is there any concern there?
I hope not. I think that we'll keep all the Republicans together on this, and if we do, you get the necessary 50 votes, and he's confirmed. I don't think we'll get any Democrats to support. I'm hoping people like Joe Manchin and Joe Donnelly from West Virginia and Indiana, respectively, they're both on the ballot in November in states that President Trump won pretty handily in 2016. There'll be a lot of pressure on them because they're going to be hard pressed to paint Judge Kavanaugh out as anything extreme or threatening at all. I think they'll be compelled ultimately or tempted at least to break ranks with the Democrats and vote in his favor.
I expect
he'll be approved.
That was going to be my next question about the Manchins or the McCaskells or the Nelsons who are in red states. I mean, Trump won West Virginia by like 40 points. Manchin is up for re-election. You think there's no chance, despite that, despite the wishes of his electorate, of his constituents, you still don't think there's a chance that he could vote yay for this pick?
I hope so. I think I've always regarded Joe Manchin as being a very reasonable person and someone who I think genuinely seeks to do the will of the people that he represents. And clearly those people's will was expressed at the ballot box in 2016. I mean, let's make no mistake about this. The election of President Trump was due in large part to this issue. I mean, I think 23% of the voters checked the box and said the appointment of Supreme Court justices was one of their top priorities, if not their number one priority, when they went to the ballot box. That certainly applies to the people in West Virginia and Indiana and all these other states. And I think these senators need to do well by the folks they represent in this representative democracy we have in a constitutional republic, to do that, do right by the people, and vote for a judge who is clearly qualified to do this work.
Let me ask you, Mike, Congressman Mike Johnson. Sorry, call you Mike. That's terrible. What key rulings will you be watching for that could change the shape of the future of our country with this nominee?
Well, it's hard to anticipate all the issues that could come before him. This is a pick. Bret Kavanaugh is 53 years old, so it's conceivable. God willing, he could serve for decades on the court, and over the course of time, there'll be a number of nation-shaping decisions that come before the court. There's some percolating through the system right now. On you hear so much about the life issue. Roe v. Wade is conceivable. A review of that case, the overarching or the underlying principle beneath Roe and the whole structure of it, could come for review before the Supreme Court in the next year or two. There are always cases percolating through the system that could make it up for review. The Supreme Court could take or accept a writ on one of those cases that comes up through the appellate court system, and we could change the paradigm on that issue. Many others. I mean, if you look over the history of what Judge Kavanaugh has done on the D.C. Circuit, which is sort of the farm club for the Supreme Court, as it's been said, he just has a volume of rulings on the regulatory state, the overreach of the federal government. I mean, principal questions that determine so much in every aspect of all of our lives. He's got a very firm commitment and core philosophy that will guide his decisions on that. In addition to the other four, I think, committed and reliable conservatives that are on the court, we're going to see a shift. The reason this is so different than Justice Kennedy, who he's replacing and who he used to clerk for, by the way, is that Justice Kennedy was always that swing vote. We never could predict really where he would come down. I don't think we're going to have that uncertainty with Judge Kavanaugh, and that's going to be a great relief to the country.
Mitch McConnell has said over and over again that this will come up for a vote before the Senate by the fall, before the elections. McConnell and Trump haven't always had the smoothest of relationships. Do you think McConnell can be counted on?
I think he can here. I think he's absolutely committed to it, and I believe that he'll hold the team together. You always have a few rogue voices in the Republican conference and the Senate, but at the end of the day, I think they'll all be hard-pressed to add any delay to this. I think that the people are going to demand that it be done quickly, and that's going to serve the interest of the country. So I think they'll keep it together. I think they'll get the job done. They've floated the date of October 1 as a drop-dead deadline, and I think that can be met.